This is a presentation on international business with Apple Inc. as a case study. This presentation is in fulfillment of International Business course with Apple Inc. as my case study. Apple has officially become the first trillion-dollar company in history. It has continuously provided its customers with innovative products and services. It is the world-leading company in the technology space. This company was founded in 1976 by Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne. The company's philosophy is simple: understand and serve the customer better than anyone else. Forget about everything else and make sure every little thing you do serves one, whereas you understand and serve the customer better than anyone else. And you do this always, and you do this everywhere. The company's values are rooted in its belief that people should be able to rely on technology to solve their problems. The company has a unique visual style and vocabulary reflected in its product design and advertising. The company goal is to create a connection with its customers that is deep and meaningful. This can be done through creation, trust, and introduction of the new products. All this can be found on the company's website. Apple is structured in a hierarchical way for its organization, but this is to maintain tight controls by senior management over all aspects of the business. So this structure provides room for growth and expansion for those who are in middle management and lower levels, but it also gives an opportunity for the senior managers to understand the business and understand their role and their department. Financially, Apple is quite successful. And this year, for 2022, there were several milestones. They installed bases, crosses, which are 2 billion active devices. Also, the services set an all-time revenue record, reaching 20.8 billion revenue this year. And there were increased sales in the Americas, Europe, Greater China, and most of Asia except for Japan. The business strategy. Business strategy is about creating short and long-term goals to fulfill the company's mission and vision. You can have domestic strategies and you can have international strategies, which include multi-domestic, global, and transnational. But a strategy usually includes growth strategies, human resources development strategies, marketing tactics, and internal goal setting. The growth strategies could include expanding. Even in difficult times, companies should have growth strategies, and the current pandemic has shown that, and several companies that were able to do that. Apple is one, and Apple was still expanding globally even during the pandemic. Human resources development strategies includes things like recruitment, training, succession planning, and reduction of staff if it's necessary to get the optimal amount of manpower. Apple, like other tech companies, has not recently had any major layoffs. And marketing strategy is to achieve specific goals, and this could be in your sales, this could be product positioning within the company or within competitive markets. And Apple is focusing on attractive value propositions, effective use of product placements, and positive reviews in the media. That's from their website. When it comes to domestic and international strategies, there are certain advantages. Domestic strategies are where businesses can make a single overarching strategic plan to guide their efforts. In international strategy, they must choose between either developing a single overarching plan for the entire company or different strategic plans for different markets, or a combination of both, because some markets may not be mature enough to support certain strategic plans. So domestic strategic plans are a single plan to govern the company. Usually, cultural practices are known within the region and not a challenge, and they focus on domestic market and improving their competitive advantage. International strategies, they can have one overarching plan or a multi-domestic approach. Different cultural practices are a major consideration, and focus on local requirements within each of its markets rather than having a wider range, more general focus. Apple's domestic strategy are four main things: focus on the design and the functionality of products, enhancing customer experience, strengthening Apple ecosystem, and decreasing the dependence on the sales of the iPhone. The sales of iPhones have stagnated within the Americas. Internationally, Apple is about marketing the products internationally, and they've gone into regions like China and India. That's their main focus. Global branding, decarbonize by 2030, which is a very good social responsibility that they have taken on, and their tax strategies, which may or may not be considered a good thing. In expanding in a foreign market, you must do research about risk analysis. And the areas you should look at are logistical, regulatory, financial, and political. Logistical is simply about where you should set up, where you should expand, how you're going to set it up. And these are your bricks and mortar structures. Human resources, where are you going to hire from? Are you going to hire locally? Are you going to hire foreign? Are you going to cannibalize your current situation in your operations? And what is going to be the effects of this if there are going to be any disruptions? Then you have things like relocation costs, you have cultural issues, then there's IT issues. Not everybody has a rigid system as in the Americas. So would there be a reliable system to work with? Would there be issues with connectivity within the region and with the head offices? And the labor issues, like Apple is currently has an issue with labor in China and the factories with respect to hours of operation and the way people are treated. Regulatory occurs because foreign laws are different. Foreign regulations are different. Regulatory requirements are different in every region. Labor laws are different. The best way to get around this would be to hire an international lawyer and an accountant to deal with these things. Apple has been a subject of several lawsuits dealing with issues such as patent laws in different regions. So that would have been one risk they should have analyzed. Financial risk. Financial risk is mainly about the foreign exchange. The fluctuations in foreign exchange affect your profitability or your projections of your profitability. And these fluctuations are not something you want your investors to see or would be a good thing for your investors. So we have to understand how to mitigate that foreign exchange risk. Another financial risk is basically ensuring that you have enough resources, financial resources, to do the expansion. Political risk. The political climate around the world is fragile. The tension between superpowers and the invasion of sovereign countries is most prevalent. However, domestically, regimes can change overnight with coups and insurrections. Therefore, companies should be cautious and account for the possibility of this risk in their assessment to expand overseas. Ways of expanding overseas: you can do joint ventures. Joint ventures are a combination of two or more parties that seek the development of a single enterprise or project for profit sharing the risk associated with the development of the project. Or you can indulge in strategic alliances, which are partnerships between separate organizations to share resources collaboratively towards a mutual beneficial goal. Apple has indulged in these two types of partnerships. For joint ventures, Apple has partnered with Accenture. With this partnership, with this joint venture, was to create iOS business solutions. There was a joint venture with Deloitte, which accelerate business processes using iPhone and iPad. And SAP, which is building business solutions with Apple machine learning and augmented reality. For their strategic alliances, there was a famous AIM, which is with Apple, IBM, and Motorola. Although they may seem as competitors, there was a strategic alliance to create a standard for a power source PC. There was an alliance with Microsoft to make Office products compatible with Mac and other Apple devices. And then with General Electric to integrate the General Electric proprietary system of Internet of Things with the Mac. But Apple has not always been making the right decisions, and some of their controversial decisions are their anti-competitiveness, which does not allow the consumer to in any way repair their devices. Apple has locked out things such as with the MacBook Pro retinal display. This was heavily and physically sealed, and it was locking out customers and eliminating their ability to self-repair. Then there was the controversy with the FBI, their decision to not share the details of the accounts for terrorists with the FBI. When it comes to the safety of the country, I think that should have been the main issue, but Apple did not do that. And then the tax sheltering. They have been accused of using Ireland and Luxembourg to get tax breaks. Every company should pay its fair share, so Apple in itself should not indulge in these tax sheltering strategies. Thank you very much. Apple has officially become the first trillion-dollar company in history. This company is one of the leading companies in the technology space. It is the most innovative technology company to have emerged in the past few years. The company was started by three people: Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne, back in 1976. It has continuously provided its customers with innovative products and services. The company philosophy is simple. 1. Understand and serve the customer better than anyone else. 2. Forget about everything else. And 3. Make sure every little thing you do serves one, always and everywhere. The company's values align with this philosophy. They are rooted in its belief that people should be able to rely on technology to solve their problems in their day-to-day lives and in their businesses. The company is unique in its style, its vocabulary, its marketing. I mean, everyone waits for that special time in the fall when Apple announces its new products. That is a big draw for many customers. The company's goal is to create a connection between its customers that is deep and meaningful, and this can be done through a creation and introduction of new products continuously. Apple's organization is, like many organizations, a hierarchical one, but the senior managers in the organization are versed, and the organization is structured such that there are tight controls for each division. So each senior manager is responsible for that division and is supposedly know exactly what goes on and can fit into any site or any position within that level. Apple continues to be quite successful, as its financial statement shows. It's a very profitable company, and in 2022 there were several records made. There was the installation of base that crosses 2 billion active devices, and this hits an all-time high for all major products. The services aspect of the company reached an all-time new revenue record to 20.8 billion revenue was recorded last year, and there were increased sales in the Americas, Europe, Greater China, and most of Asia except for Japan. Every company, even in difficult times like the current pandemic, needs to create a business strategy. Creating a business strategy is a way of achieving the long-term and short-term goals of the company through its vision and its mission. There are different types of strategy. You have domestic strategies and international strategies, which consist of multi-domestic, global, and transnational. Strategies include growth strategies, human resources, development strategies, marketing tactics, and internal goal setting. Growth strategies. These strategies, even like I said, in difficult times, must be about the growth of the company and moving forward. Growth strategies include product offering expansions, adding locations, or going global, as in the case of Apple, which expanded globally and keeps doing this. Human resources development strategies include things like recruitment, training, succession planning, and even the reduction of staff to get an optimal manpower level, which may be necessary sometimes. Recently, many tech companies have been laying off employees, but Apple has seemed to have very little laid off planned or any at all. Marketing tactics are to achieve specific goals, like achieving a product, being more competitive, increasing sales, increasing revenues. Apple focuses on attractive value propositions, effective use of product placements, and positive reviews in the media. Internal goal setting would be the company's internal goals for maybe production levels, maybe new services, new IT, new organization issues. So those are internal goal setting, which again always aligns with the company's mission and vision. Domestic strategies offer a single overarching strategy for the institution or the organization within that jurisdiction. This guides their efforts going forward. Usually the cultural issues and cultural practices are not evident in this because you're in one region, and they focus on the domestic market and improving the competitive advantage in that market. The international strategy is about expansion, and you can have either one overarching strategy for the whole organization, or you can have multi-domestic approach with strategies for each region, or a combination of both. Different cultural practices are a major consideration for this strategy, and the focus sometimes is on the local requirements within each market rather than a global presence. Apple's domestic strategy is to focus on the design and functionality of its products, enhance their customer experience, strengthen the Apple ecosystem, which is a socially responsible strategy, and also decreasing the dependence on the iPhone. The sales of the iPhone has plateaued in the America region, so Apple has to look for something else, either a new product, new design of the iPhone, or a different product to be its cash cow. Apple's international strategy includes expanding its market and the products in different areas, especially China and more recently India. They would like to do global branding so that Apple becomes a global name rather than just a local name, but I think it's already there. Their tax strategy, which is a little bit controversial, but their tax strategy is to limit their tax debt in every region, I guess, and then to decarbonize by 2030. This aligns with their domestic strategy for their ecosystem, and it's also a very socially responsible strategy. Expansion internationally comes with risk, and there are risks that are inherent in when you're doing a domestic market, but when you expand globally, there are many risks. The risks can be categorized as logistical, regulatory, financial, and political. Logistical risk is about maybe actually physically setting up, understanding which market you're going to enter. There may be human resources issues such as hiring the right people, the decision whether you hire domestic people or foreigners, or should you just cannibalize your current manpower without much disruption to your current services. There are things like relocation cost involved if you're hiring people to enter this foreign market from your domestic or your home area. And there may be cultural issues. Then something such as IT issues. You have to ensure that there's proper availability of services within the region you're going, and that connectivity to the head office is sufficient enough and efficient. Apple's expansion into the foreign markets did not all go smoothly because there were issues in China with labor, with hours of operation, and just the general cultural differences. Regulatory. Foreign laws and regulations are different in every country, and that's a main challenge. You have things like tax codes, licensing requirements, labor laws, and regulatory rules and their requirements. You may need to hire international lawyers and accountants with that experience. Apple has been the subject of several lawsuits dealing with issues such as patent laws in different regions. Financial. Ensuring that there is enough financial resources to do the expansion is very critical, and that should be the first thought in expanding. But then you've also got foreign exchange. Foreign exchange and the fluctuations in foreign exchange can have fluctuations in your profit projections, which are not something that your investors would like to see when considering your company. Political. The political climate around the world is fragile. The tension between the superpowers and the invasion of sovereign countries is most prevalent. However, domestically, in the regions, there can also be coups and insurrections. Therefore, companies should be cautious and account for the possibility of this risk in their assessment to expand overseas. There are two main options available to organizations in expanding. Joint ventures are one of them. A joint venture is a combination of two or more parties that seek the development of one organization for the benefit of those involved, and they can have arrangements with profit sharing or growth strategies, but it's for the benefit of both company or the organizations involved in the joint venture. Strategic alliance is the other way of expanding or a company intending to go global. These alliances are partnerships. They're separate organizations, but they share things such as resources, innovation, ideas, and it's mutually beneficial to both. And that's the goal of the strategic alliances. Apple has been involved in several joint ventures and strategic alliances. Some examples of the joint ventures are with Accenture, where they created the iOS business solution, Deloitte, to accelerate business processes using the iPhone and the iPad, and SAP, building business solutions with Apple machines learning and their augmented reality. Strategic alliances are AIM, which is very strange because it consists of Apple, IBM, and Motorola. And although these companies may seem to be competitors, they did have a strategic alliance to create a standard for a power source PC. Microsoft. The alliance with Microsoft was to make Office products compatible with Mac and other Apple devices, and with General Electric to integrate the General Electric's Internet of Things with the Mac computer. Although Apple is quite successful, there are some business decisions which are very controversial, and I would argue against making these decisions. And the first is anti-competitive. With this rule, Steve Jobs ensured that people who would try to fix their devices were not able to by locking out certain systems such as the Retina in the MacBook Pro, which was heavily and physically sealed.
Apple has
then there was a controversy with the FBI, where Apple was asked to release the information or to unlock the devices of certain terrorists, and they refused to do so. Understandably, there is a confidentiality issue, but for the safety of the country, I think this could have been overlooked, and for the good of all, they should have unlocked it. And then the tax shelter strategy. Apple has been accused of using tax shelters to protect its revenues. They've been accused of using Ireland and Luxembourg to get tax breaks. And the EU is looking at these allegations.
The company's values.
Tim Cook,
are
the
rooted
current
in its
CEO, calls
belief
this
that
a political
people should
crime.
be able to
But
rely on technology
I
to
think
solve
it's
their
unfair when
problems.
institutions have
The
that
company has a
ability to
unique visual
do tax
style and
sheltering,
vocabulary,
whereas
which
the
is
normal
reflected in its
citizen
products
does not
design and
have.
advertising. The company's goal
Thank
is
you.
to create connection with its customers, and its deep and meaningful connection. And this can be done through the creation of trust and the introduction of new products. That's quoted from the company's website. The org chart. The company it's a hierarchical org chart. So you've got your lead, who's currently Mr. Tim Cook, and then you've got an organization where the structure is to maintain tight controls by senior management over all the aspects of the business. So there are different departments, and that senior management should understand what's going on in that department. This is normal for most companies, so nothing unique to Apple. The financial details. As you can see, Apple is quite successful, and in the past year, there were a few recorded milestones. One, they installed 2 billion active devices throughout, and that hit an all-time record for all major categories. Tim Cook brags about this and says it's a significant milestone for the company. In the services department, it set a new all-time revenue record with 20.8 billion US dollars. And there was also increased sales in the Americas, Europe, Greater China, and most of Asia, except for Japan. Business strategy. A business strategy is the way a company creates a plan that would fulfill its mission and vision statements. There are different types of strategies, and location-wise, you have your domestic strategy, or you can have your international strategy, which is international. Can be multi-domestic, it can be global, and can be transnational. Strategic plan can be included in the strategic plan are the growth strategies, your human resources strategies, your marketing strategies, and your internal goal setting. The growth strategies, they should be even attempted during difficult times, like during the current pandemic. And companies must have a growth strategy, even during those difficult times. Examples of growth strategies are product offering expansions, adding new locations, or going global. So Apple expanded globally. Human resources strategy. Human resources strategy can include recruitment, training, succession planning, which is quite an essential tool, and that's what regulators would like to see, and reduction to achieve the optimal manpower. So there may be layoffs in the works for most companies, and recently tech companies have been laying off people. But Apple has stayed the course, and they have not had any big reductions in their staff lately. Marketing tactics. To achieve specific goals, that's what marketing tactics do. Maybe in sales in one product, maybe revenue goals. Apple is focusing on attractive value propositions, which are the effective use of product placements and positive reviews in the media. That is their main marketing strategy. Domestic versus international strategies. Domestic strategies are where businesses do make decisions with a single overarching strategic plan to guide their efforts in that one area. International businesses must choose between developing a single comprehensive strategic plan for all their locations, or different strategic plans for different markets, or combination of both. As you can see, domestic plans are single plans to govern the company. Usually, cultural practices are known and not a challenge, focus on domestic market and improving competitive advantage, whereas international strategies are one overarching strategy or a multi-domestic approach. Different cultural practices are a major consideration. Focus on local requirements within each of its markets. Apple's domestic strategy is 1. Focus on the design and the functionality of their products. 2. Enhancing customer experience. 3. Strengthening Apple's ecosystem. And 4, decreasing the dependence of the business on the sales of the iPhones. The sales of iPhones within the Americas seem to have stagnated, so Apple is looking for another approach there. Domestic the international strategies, they are marketing the products internationally, especially in areas like China and India. These are some new venture markets for them, been advancing in these markets. Global branding, the tax strategy, where Apple is trying to reduce its tax obligations in the US and other countries by manipulating the way they report their incomes. And this is an important one, decarbonize by 2030. So Apple is on board with everything else. Apple operates in several regions outside the US. The second central region that Apple operates in is in Europe. And then we have operations in China and a new strategy to enter into India. The risk analysis. So when you're venturing into a new market, you need to analyze the risks that are associated with this new venture. And there are 4 main types of risks: logistical, regulatory, financial, and political. Logistical, as the name implies, deals with things as just simple thing as determining which location to enter into, and also physically setting up the offices and manufacturing plants that are required. It also includes things like human resources, hiring the right people, foreign or domestic, whether to cannibalize the current staff and, with their experience and send them to the foreign areas, and then how to do this with little disruption to your current operations. Also, there are costs involved, like relocation costs, and there may be cultural issues. Another consideration for logistical is IT issues, ensuring that you have the proper facilities at the new location, that the systems are compatible with the current systems that you have in your domestic operations, and also that you can have connectivity. One main issue with logistical is going to be labor issues, because when you expand into foreign markets, like Apple did, it didn't go quite smoothly in China because there were issues with factory hours and stuff like that that had to be resolved, or are still being resolved. Regulatory. It's my favorite. Foreign laws and regulations are different in each country. There are different requirements, there are different metrics, there are labor laws which are different and require maybe hours of work, vacation, all that kind of stuff. So you have to take that into account. The best thing would be to hire someone who is versed in international law and international accounting, because tax rules are very different also. Apple has been the subject of several lawsuits dealing with issues such as patent laws in different regions. So this would be very applicable to Apple. Financial risk. The main thing with financial risk is your foreign exchange. Foreign exchange rates the fluctuations in them would be manifested in fluctuations in your profit projections, and that is not a good look for any company, because if you cannot try to predict what you're going to do, then how are you going to predict your growth and everything else? Also, you have to do understand when you're expanding that you have the financial resources to do so in the first place. And political. The political climate around the world currently is fragile. The tension between the superpowers and the invasion of sovereign countries is most prevalent now. However, domestically, regimes can change with things like coups and insurrections within a region. Therefore, companies should be cautious and account for the possibility of this risk in their assessment to expand overseas. A way of doing international expansion is through joint ventures. Joint ventures are considered a combination of 2 or more parties that seek the development of a single enterprise or project for profit, sharing the risk associated with its development. And you've got you can do strategic alliances. Strategic alliances are partnerships between separate organizations to share resources collaboratively towards mutual beneficial goals. Apple has been a creator of some joint ventures and strategic alliances. There have been joint ventures with Accenture, which is to create an iOS business solution, with Deloitte, which is to accelerate business processes using the iPhone and the iPad, and with SAP, which is building solutions for Apple machine learning and their augmented reality. Some of the strategic alliances are AIM, which is a famous one with Apple, IBM, and Motorola. Although they may seem to be competitors, they did get together to create a standard for a power source for PCs. Microsoft aligned with Apple to ensure that their products, Microsoft Office products, are compatible with Mac and other Apple devices. And with General Electric to integrate their Internet of Things, which is a proprietary system for General Electric, with Mac. So Apple has been able to encourage these joint ventures and alliances, which help them in the end. But Apple has not been making such good decisions all the time, and as such, there have been lawsuits. Some of the things I don't agree with are the anti-competitive laws. Apple's insistence was driven by Steve Jobs initially, that the company has complete control over its products from start to finish, and this has led to claims of anti-competitive behavior, right? Apple's sealing of some products, including the 2012 MacBook Pro and the Retina display, which was heavily physically sealed, was criticized for locking out customers and limiting their ability to self-repair, because now you can go on YouTube and get any sort of guidance on how to repair stuff. So Apple has, made it difficult for anyone to go in and do that. Then you have the FBI controversy, where Apple was asked to allow the FBI access to the accounts of terrorists, and Apple refused. It's understandable that this is a decision that they have to make because it may affect their reputational risk. But I think when it comes to the safety of a country and something like that, I think they should have allowed the FBI to have access to it. And the tax shelters, as I mentioned before, Apple is very versed in tax sheltering tactics. So they have used these tactics, and they have been accused of using Ireland and Luxembourg to get tax breaks. And the European Commission is currently investigating this. And Tim Cook, the current CEO, calls this political crap. But it is an issue with Apple. So international business is growing. It's growing fast, and Apple is a leader in international business, allowing their production to be in different regions, allowing their marketing, allowing the growth of their product sales in different regions. And I think it's a good example of international business, but they have to stay in line with regulatory rules. Thank you.